Hey there, friends. Today on Rising Signs.
All the way from Fort Worth, Dallas, Texas. He's currently behind scenes right now, fixing his hair up a little bit. We got Matt Smith.
Roll the intro. Good morning, everybody. I'm Joe. This guy is
Matthew.
And you're on with Rising Signs. How's everybody doing?
Joe, here we are. We've gone through episode 1. We've gone through episode 2. We've gone through episode 3. We've gone through episode 4, which was our 1-month anniversary. And here we are, episode 5.
Bingo.
Bingo. High five.
So, has anything changed for you recently? Anything positive, negative with the stay-at-home stuff?
I mean, I think things are on an upward trend. I think that's the good thing. It's a lot more positive that you're hearing within the streets, within the community. People are going to be going back to work real soon. So I'm excited for that. I know everybody else around me is excited. Tired of this quarantining, and it's start to get back to normal life. So, and yourself? How's everything, Jojo?
Same old. The boys are trying to break down the walls. They're getting a little uncomfortable being stuck in the house. So we're taking, drives out places and checking stuff out. They're hanging their heads out the windows every now and then, having some fun. But I would agree that there's I'm happy to see that a lot of people are positive now. They're finding ways to integrate, to find work. And to start, moving forward. And, I think the biggest key for me is I got to keep moving. Like I got to stay active, trying to do some exercise and activity every day has been good. So, we're going to go ahead and, jump right on into it. I think we have another famous introduction that Mr. Lavery is going to give us for our next guest.
Yeah. As usual, this has become a thing for Rising Signs. So I've, allotted a little bit of time to do some fact checking on our next guest, and let's get this started. All the way from Texas, currently in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Our next guest has been in the sign industry since 1985, which was a year after I was born. He has worked for Distribution for about 28 years. While doing this, he's also worked for a vendor for 7 years, while still being in sales and sales management the entire time. He has served on the Texas Sign Association State Board, the Oklahoma Sign Association State Board, the Tri-State Sign Association State Board, and most recently has been elected to the ISA Board of Directors. Although our next guest is past the age group for the ISA Elite program, he has aspirations of starting a program in the near future for legacy members of the Sign Association. This next guest is the Director of National Accounts at GSG. It is my pleasure to welcome to episode 5 of Rising Signs, Mr. Matt Smith.
How you doing, guys?
Welcome,
Good morning,
Matt.
I'm sorry, I got tears coming out of my eyes on that one, Matt.
Isn't he great?
That was awesome. I can't wait to show my wife.
Love it. That's what we aspire for. So we want to get the show started off on the right note. Nothing but positive and love. So welcome, man. It's an honor.
Great. Thank you very much, guys. Thanks for having me on.
I'm excited that you were able to make time, Matt. Of the times we've worked together, it's always been a blast. I think it's really monumental to say we've got a board member on the show. I think that's really, really cool. So we appreciate you jumping on with us. So we can get right into it. Give us, a brief synopsis of, how you got into the sign industry and kind of your career path and how you got to where you are now, and any great stories that you have in between. I know that I have lots of goofy stories on how I ended up where I am, because I don't know about you, but I didn't plan to be here, right? It just kind of unfolded like a story, right? So go ahead and take the stand there and share your sign story with us.
Yeah, no problem. Mine was kind of weird. I was out of work for 2 months went out and was interviewing for all different types of jobs, really strange jobs. Got an interview for work for a sign supply distributor down in San Antonio, Texas. They was Resupply at that time. It's still Resupply, I apologize. It was in San Antonio. And literally got the job, went to show up the first day, had no idea what they did. But I was out of work. My wife was pregnant with our first kid, and they were giving me insurance and a car. So I said, great, let's go for it. Showed up the first day, and they gave me this catalog. This is before computers. Gave me a catalog and a book, and they said, work the will call counter. And the first customer I had was some lady walked in and said, I need to buy a ballast. And I go, okay, can you tell me what a ballast is? And then she just went off on me. And that was my first customer I ever had.
I love it. Yeah, wow. I know that feeling.
Yeah. And then
the day when you wore suit and tie to work. So
28 years. 28 years in the industry. That's a lengthy amount of time to see a lot of change.
28 years in distribution, but 35 years. I worked between when I worked for Resupply, now when I work for GSG, I worked 7 years for Transco Transformers. So
wow. So 35 years, you've seen quite the transition in the sign industry to where we are today.
Yes, very much so.
Wow.
So with Transco, it says regional sales manager. Were you were covering outside Texas and the surrounding when you did that as well?
Texas and about 7 states. So
Texas and 7 states.
Mm-hmm.
Good Lord, that's
it was a big territory.
No kidding, man. Texas alone is a huge territory. Forget any other states.
Yeah, no, it was a good time. It was fun because it was right after a couple of years of being in there is when 2161 started coming out. So, you had to go test everything, and it was really great because it allowed me to really help customers with their issues, and because again, I've never built a sign, so but you knew what they were doing wrong. You could talk to them and everything, so it was really a fun time.
Yeah, no kidding, man. So I love that. Anything else on career and work history you wanted to cover before we jump into some topics here?
No, I mean, I like you said, I got into the sign industry. I had no idea what the sign industry was, and 35 years later, I'm still here. I've only worked for 3 companies, but it's a great. I mean, I really cannot think about being anywhere else because the people that you get to meet and everything, like y'all and everybody else, it's fun. And it's a fun group. You're never going to get rich in it and everything, but you're going to have a lot of fun. And like right now, the way things are going today and everything, it's exciting. So
I couldn't agree more. I love that synopsis. The people we work with are great, and the industry is so unique. So I think Matt had covered a couple topics you were interested in. One of them being creating value from the distributor perspective, something that clearly you're passionate about. You're responsible for, not only national accounts, but you also influence salespeople out in the field as well as a support figure. So let's go ahead and jump into that as far as creating value from the distributor perspective.
Well, a lot of like when I talked to Matt the other day is what I believe and what our company believes is that, the sign company is not the customer. It's Whataburger or McDonald's, whoever is the customer. Yep. The sign company needs the distributor, the distributor needs the sign company, and they also need the vendor. So it's a partnership going the whole way down. And what I believe is that when a distributor is a vital part of that, but a distributor needs to have a purpose. And one of the things that we enforce with all of our salespeople is if I'm going to go call on a sign customer or I'm going to call them up, first thing we will state is what is our purpose? What is the purpose of this call? And it is surprising how many customers really appreciate that because you're getting to the point, last time we talked about this, now we're moving it to the next stage. You're talking about it and they go, okay, great. And then it's okay. It's 15 minutes and we're done. And, if you want to talk about fishing and golf or something, we could do that, but your time's valuable, my time's valuable. Let's do it and be essential. And then the other thing is bringing, like I said, bringing value to them that says, look, I've got an idea that might help you, or I see the way you're building this. And again, I've never built a sign, but this is a new product that might make your job easier. And again, if they want to take it, fantastic. If they don't, it's very rewarding when somebody looks at some idea that you've used and you see them implement it. So,
that's a great point, Matt. Mr. Lavery and I actually had a conversation the other day where I was talking about how there's a lot of different personality types that get into sales. And some of them are what we would call a professional visitor versus the professional salesman. And that's kind of what you keyed into there was if you got somebody that'll show up and talk fishing with you, that guy or gal is going to get some sales. But if a professional salesman comes in and teaches and trains solutions that makes a sign company more profitable, makes him to be able to produce faster, that is the real game changer in the equation of, material sales when it comes to the sign realm. So it's a beautiful and resounding point for me. I love that.
Well, when you're looking at it, if you're sitting there saying, if I'm going to go visit Matt and everything, you're going, okay, great. I've got an appointment. And again, I value your time, you value mine. So, don't be sitting there playing on a guitar and not paying attention to me. Only certain people will get that reference. But pay attention to me and then I'll do everything and I'll follow up and you do what you're supposed to do. And it makes everything more valuable. But if I'm a sign customer and I look at when somebody has left my building and I look back and I cannot figure out why they were there, that was not a good call. So it needs to be, and there needs to be a follow-up action to that on what we're doing. Okay, this is my job to do now. I'm going to take it to this next stage.
Matt, the other day when you and I were having a conversation on the phone, we ended up getting into a conversation of family businesses, small shops, large shops, and as far as their expectations when it comes to distribution, because I think everybody has their own different systems or volume in which they're ordering. And then you started to get in and started to touch upon some of the expectations that people should have for distributors. Did you want to touch upon that? Because I know when you were talking to me, you had some really good points that I think people would find valuable.
No, it's the whole thing being is, giving you my opinion, the typical sign company is grandfather started it, handed it down to the dad hands it down to the son. That's the typical thing. And you all, like your guest last week, the younger Matt.
Tell us about the
he made a great reference to, I was making channel letters when I was a kid. I was applying vinyl. He mentioned the Gerber sign maker, which I used to sell back in the 80s and everything. So it was a great, but that's the way everybody's story is. But the problem is, who's going to teach you how to run it as a business? And I think that's where the distribution can really help, because for us to make money, we're worried about how many turns we have, how many, we don't want to carry too much inventory, not enough inventory and such. But by the same token is, if a customer, the example I always use is, if you're buying 1 gallon of paint every week and there's a price break at 4 gallons, why don't you just buy 4 gallons? So like I was explaining to Matt the other day was, so now all of a sudden, right away, let's say it was 10% cheaper to buy a case. So automatically save 10%, but make it the bigger savings for the sign company, and where you start stepping on toes a little bit, is making them understand the transaction cost. Is that guy has to receive it in 4 times, whereas if you do a case, he only receives it once. And I know with us, it infuriates us on back orders. We hate back orders, as far as things that we receive. One of the things that we grade ourselves on is making sure that we don't have back orders. So for instance, if I'm going to sell to Spectra Signs, we're going to tell them, all right, here's the 10 things that you ordered and we have them all in stock. We can tell you right then by looking at our inventory, so that when you come in, you have 1 PO and 1 invoice. They should match together and we're good. And if there is a back order, we tell you at the moment you're placing it. That will give you an option to call somebody else or adjust your work schedule on how you're doing. And I think that helps with customers, making them understand what their transaction cost is versus, so you can start scheduling your people and all. And that's a big part of what we do is we try to sit around 94, 95% on time delivery and what we call fill rate. So if we tell you it's going to be on Tuesday and it doesn't arrive on Tuesday, then we get a big 0 on our grade card. So I can run a report for you every time I go visit a customer to show them, hey, I'm on time on this stuff. And then by the same token is I can show them of all the orders that you placed, 94% of the time we had exactly what you asked for.
Yeah.
Or 93% of the time. So if it gets down in the 80s, we don't like that. Then we need to start looking at things we're doing wrong.
So is this something that you find yourself coaching a lot of sign shops doing? Being that, yes, you are doing sales and it is distribution, but this is something that you end up, is this a weekly thing, a monthly thing that you end up giving information or having to retool a sign shop?
We do a business review with the sign company, and we'll do it usually about once a month when we go in there, and we'll tell them, for instance, okay, look, looking at this, here's how we graded, but now I've been noticing that you're buying a lot of this plastic for 4x8 white plastic, and your transaction cost is getting a little high on this. So you might, even if there's not a price advantage, you might want to go to a skid where instead of ordering 6 sheets and 6 sheets and 6 sheets, just order a skid. And then that way the forklift just comes, grabs it, takes off, sets it down, and you're much better off that way. Or sometimes, I got one customer that calls up and buys 150 feet of polycarbonate off a reel, and then a couple of days later buys another 150 feet and go, it'd be a lot easier if you would just buy a reel. And if I ship it from the factory to you and I don't touch it, your price is going to be better because I don't have to touch it.
Yeah.
So
inventory
thing, and we actually had one customer that liked what we did so much, they created their own grading system for their distributors that they deal with. And they literally gave us an A, B, C, or D at the end of every month. And they would send it out to all their distributors and go, well, this is how we graded you. And they broke it down because they value their transaction cost.
Inventory maintenance is a huge part of that too, Matt. So you talked about the transactional costs, and that kind of flows into that on top of somebody having to receive it, count it, account for it. The other factors we don't talk about is, when that painter or that fabricator has to walk up to the front of the shop or fill out a form to send to the purchasing agent. If you have a purchasing agent that's having to do, multi-item lists every single day, that's more time that the purchasing agent is, one, having to deal with people that are coming asking for things, and two, that's more phone calls that they have to make because likely they're not buying absolutely everything from one distributor. But if they can look at it and say, okay, listen, I can save money here, instead of trying to, pinch these pennies because I want to spend as little as I can every day. If I'm going to spend the same amount at the end of every month, why not make 50 to 60% less phone calls or having to log into 50 to 60% less accounts? And let's not even mention the amount of laps that people are doing back and forth from the shop and the amount of sticky notes that the purchasing agent's trying to keep up. Like, it's a lot more peaceful.
It's no different than back in the day when everybody would just do stick-built cabinets and skin them and everything. And then all of a sudden, when extrusion first came out, before Mr. Lavery was born, but when extrusion first came out, there was 90,000 pieces to make up a cabinet. So it's too complicated. It's gotten much easier now. So some people, you go ask a sign customer, you say, how long does it take your guy to do stick and skin a cabinet? I can do a 4x8 double-sided in 2 hours. You go back and talk to the guy in the shop, 8 hours. So then, but again, what is he estimating? He's estimating 2 hours in fabrication and everything. So then you go bring an extrusion in, you do a knockdown kit, that knockdown kit's more expensive, but now that guy can build it I personally built a 4x8 in 45 minutes, putting aluminum on the back or ACM or whatever, but not doing electrical. As when I worked one time with Dave Bryhoff and we did it. So once that was all done, now I can go back to customers and go, look, that means that your guy could build 8 cabinets in 8 hours versus one cabinet. And then you'll still get the ones that go, well, yeah, but it's $300 for that kit and the stuff I'm buying is only $100. Yeah, but what is that guy worth? And then you get into, the guy's not $15 an hour, $20 an hour. It's his shop rate.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you get to the customer. What's your shop rate? A lot of people still don't know that, which is crazy. And what are you billing out at? And once you start looking at that, like Joe, like saying, with the sticky notes, the painter, it's going to get pretty quick here, where guys just go take an iPhone, scan the can, and it's going to, we're very close to on ours where you can just scan the part number on our website and it will send it an order straight to us. I mean, we're very close to having that on our system.
Matt, I also want to touch upon this because I think it kind of molds into what you're trying to say. And we had this conversation the other day, and we haven't brought up the word efficient. And I think when it comes to a sign shop and it comes to systems and things become more efficient in the shop, what you alluded to is that your distribution and your distributors will ultimately target your end all profit. And so by being more efficient, by working together with your distributor, with getting in products at the right time, pre-ordering them, having a bulk of stock, sometimes inside your shop, it'll ultimately make you more profitable and more efficient throughout the shop. Like Joe was saying, guy walking up and down the shop, wasting time. By doing all these proper steps, we're actually becoming a more efficient shop.
Yeah, and the example we were talking about was the normal person at the table that's trim capping letters. Mm-hmm. Back, when I first started, the guy would walk all the way down the shop, grab a couple of screws, walk over, drop them all over the floor, screw them into them. And he needed some more, he'd go get some more. And he'd talk to his friend on the way and everything. Now, every sign company has this efficient table where the trim cap, the screws, the letters are all sitting right there, so they don't take more than 4 or 5 steps. The same thing being is if you're fabricating cabinets, everything should be right there. And so it still comes into the way we do it. Like, we're very efficient in the way what we do is we have everything in our warehouse is barcoded. So it's all barcoded. And what we do for we call it the guys in the warehouse are pickers, is they have a gun and your order, we're paperless. So the order for, a sign company gets downloaded into the gun, and our guys, it used to be where they had to go over the entire warehouse to pick the order. Now they're all given zones. So, Joe may get three aisles, Matt may get 3 aisles, and I may get 3 aisles. Yeah. And so that part of those orders come together. So we're more efficient. So we're only working in the aisles that we know. And it's really, really becomes much more efficient. And then we bring the orders together. Somebody double checks them. They put them all together in a box. And then we barcode that box like UPS does. So now when we deliver things, there's no paper. Theirs is, you scan that box and it's been delivered. And now I have your signature. So we've had customers call us up going, when my order's not here yet. We track it in our system, go, well, Joe, we delivered it 2 hours ago and Matt Lavery signed for it. Oh, okay. So it's being that efficient on what we're doing. And then it's showing the sign companies, we have software that routes all of our trucks now. And we literally, got rid of an hour and a half of overtime a day per driver. Mm-hmm. That strictly because we all think we know where to go, but we know as salespeople, when we get in somewhere, we get our GPS in a city I don't know. If I was coming to Columbus, Ohio, I would have to put everything in the GPS, and it just tells me left, right, and I'm efficient. We did that with our drivers, and we literally shaved an hour and a half off of each driver's overtime a day.
Wow.
So it's just showing the customers that, tell them this is what we do to make ourselves more efficient. This is what we value. And then you see them start looking at that going, okay, I had a customer this morning said, I need to order, 200 sheets of plastic, but I don't need them. I need them on this day. No problem. We just create a future order. It's going to be delivered. So he knows it's going to be delivered on that day, and he can schedule his people to do it, versus there's nothing more frustrating when somebody tells me it's got to be there tomorrow, and you deliver it there tomorrow, and then 4 weeks later, it's still sitting there and stuff, and say, well, apparently it wasn't that big of a rush. So.
Yeah, no kidding. So I know, Matt, you also had some ideas for encouraging sign shops to diversify kind of the markets they go into. Kind of the time we're in now has helped a lot of sign shops find new things to do. But I know you had some ideas on thinking outside the box and having sign shops kind of put their feelers out to diversify their business portfolio when it comes to production.
The big thing being is you're a fabricator. This is what you're doing. If you're, again, a vinyl shop, if I'm a franchise vinyl shop or what I call commercial shops, I don't do electrical, but I shouldn't walk away from electrical. I should have somebody I'm working with. And, a lot of electrical shops will have digital printers on there, but they will walk away from doing 200 banners or something because they go, that's not what I do. And what we're seeing right now is the companies that are very successful right now, staying extremely busy, are the ones who are thinking outside of that box.
Yep.
And if you start, looking at it going, I've seen, like I said, again, you have welders, you can make anything. So, but the whole thing being is you never know. I've seen sign companies that will do channel letters for a business, but then with all the vinyl that goes on inside the restaurant, on the floor, on the walls, they walk away from. And the example I always use is, if you go look at a Krispy Kreme, sorry, Joe, this is not healthy food. So Krispy Kreme, walk inside a Krispy Kreme, you will see frames that have black and white pictures of Krispy Kreme in production when it started. All of that is just digitally printed on a HP, Roland, whatever kind of Cytex printer, whatever, on artist canvas material, and it's just a wood frame, and it's just wrapped around and stapled. And all of a sudden, you go, well, yeah, I don't make pictures, guys. That's probably about $5 worth of material.
Yeah,
when you really look at it, and the people who will stay successful are the ones who don't walk away from that. Because the one thing that you always hear is, hey, ABC Sign Company, can you do this? I didn't realize y'all could do this. Well, yeah, we can. We just don't tell people.
Never did. Yeah.
We just don't tell people we do it. And it's, no different than I had a customer I sent a quote to yesterday on gloves and everything. So, hey, we got all of our cleaning supplies and this and that and hand cleaner and all and wipes and gloves. He calls me up and goes, I didn't realize you had gloves. He goes, I forget we do and everything. And all of a sudden he goes, well, I go through 4 cases a month and there's 500 pairs of gloves in a case.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's got my interest now. Yeah. We've been buying them from somebody else. And what they're telling us is we would rather, instead of buy from 20 vendors, we'd rather buy from 2 or 3 vendors. So that's what you're seeing a lot of sign companies consolidating down. They go, look, I know you don't have a lot of fasteners and everything, but I don't want to buy it from this other guy. So you start carrying fasteners, and that takes care of, Matt's company. But then all of a sudden I go to Joe's company and Brian's company and Ellen's company and go, well, look, I got fasteners now. Oh yeah, great. Then that saves them. One of the bigger examples that we've had success with is silicone. Stupid, easy silicone. Everybody we were finding out was, typical sign company. If you two were the sign guys, you would send the guy on the truck to Home Depot or to Lowe's to buy the product.
Yep.
And so what happened was Matt would go to buy the silicone and Joe would go over and look at barbecue pits and everything. That's what you do. So all of a sudden, number one, you're taking guys that are $150 an hour billing, and you're sending them to go buy a case of silicone. Now, forget the fact that silicone is $7 or $8 a tube at Home Depot or Lowe's, which is too expensive. But you're taking 2 guys that could be making $150 an hour for you, and you're making them to be shoppers. So we started bringing in silicone, started explaining it to customers, and when they saw our price, they go, wow. And that example is the same example we use. And I go, now those guys, you're not sending them to be shoppers. And all of a sudden, we start selling more silicone. And in distribution, we just want to add lines to the order. The more lines we can add, the better off we are. But that saves sign companies so much time. So
I think another perfect example of this taking place in no worries.
Notice that says I'm going to run out of power. So
I think another perfect example of
I was wondering why I was getting big.
What sign shops are doing today that's thinking outside of the box. I'm noticing it in our area. I've seen it on the news a lot while talking with members across coast to coast. A lot of shops are adapting to making these sneeze guards and masks. I'm noticing a lot of people using everyday tools, routers, laser cutters that they have in their shops that are now dormant because they're not using them, but now they've have the resources with materials through their distributors. They could get plexi, they could get Lexans, and now they're going out fabricating sneak shields that like 4 months ago, the same shop would have never thought that, hey, I could use this table to build sneeze guards. And now it's a thing. So there's a surplus of materials that people are ordering, and they've adapted to, I guess, the way the industry is moving right now because we're in a hold, right? So I think it's a perfect example.
Oh, I went to Walmart in where I live in McKinney, and a couple weeks ago, and they were putting up their sneeze guards and everything, but it was a construction company that was doing it.
There you go. Yeah.
And I asked them, I said, why are y'all doing it? And they go, we do construction. They called us up. Yep. And you'd be surprised at how many sign companies that I've talked to, and we give that idea on the sneeze guards, or, or Brian calls them professional separators, whatever, that they go, I don't want to we don't get into that. So you have the router. It's very simple. The customers that we've talked to that have embraced this idea, all of a sudden, I spoke to one this morning. He literally is getting into 4 different businesses that he's always wanted to get into and do business with, but he's using the sneeze guard as the way to get into it.
Yeah,
and all
supply
of a sudden,
demand.
They're starting to do, think about it. If it's a hotel or a restaurant, hey, I've got the solution for you. Great. And again, you're making good money on it, but all of a sudden now, so what do y'all do? Well, we make signs. Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay. Goes on and on and on. And again, it's just when you look at a sneeze guard, it's nothing. I mean, it's like we also with Graphic Solutions Group, we're very big in screen printing. And so when they canceled the Final Four and the rest of the NBA season and Major League Baseball, it just decimates, our screen print business. Well, one of our, I'll give a shout out to Brandon Smith. He had a really great idea. Brandon Smith came out with an idea to make masks that you could screen print on and everything. So we buy these, and they're washable masks and everything. And we have 1-ply and 2-ply, whatever, but you can use them as blanks. Or if I wanted to do it for Yorston and Associates, we could have somebody screen print on them or do a heat transfer vinyl on them and customize them.
Oh, wow.
We came out with those, and we probably sold 50,000 in 2 days. Because the screen printers just ate it up, because now they weren't getting the t-shirt business and everything else, but they're going, you know what? We're going to start doing these masks. And they are just going crazy over all that. And again, we never did that. We never provided that before because we normally don't provide textile.
There was no demand. For it.
But now it's a huge thing.
Yeah.
And such. So it just, everybody needs to think outside of that box of where they're going with it. I mean, you think about, like I said, sneeze guards. We're going to all vote for a very big election in November. When you go to your voting booth, think about it.
Sure.
You're going to have them all, because this is not going to be over. Some people think this is going to be over tomorrow. We're going to be doing separation till the end of the year. Yeah. That's what all the experts are saying. So therefore,
definitely the way it feels.
Forward. So again, I wash my hands a lot more than I ever used to. And everything. If somebody told my wife she could find a gallon jug of hand sanitizer, run and go buy it right now. And so we've changed what we're doing. And by the same token is, why don't we have? I mean, I saw a great one this morning from a customer in Houston that is printing up menus on this synthetic material that it's not plastic, but synthetic paper menu, but it can be cleaned with Lysol and all this. And
no way.
Warp out. So it's not as expensive as the plastic, and it's just, and it's a sign company that is printing on a synthetic paper with their digital printer. And again, thinking outside that box.
Yeah.
Your comment on things being over anytime soon and going throughout the year, I think not only are we going to need varying levels of protection and separation well into the future, I think people are going to change. There's people that we would refer to as germaphobes. I'm imagining that given this epidemic, we're going to develop more of those germaphobes. But I wanted to tie back into one thing you said earlier, and it kind of connects with what a lot of sign companies have found themselves falling into, which is diversifying their business. But I know from talking with you, Matt, that and being in sales myself, that this is something that we're constantly challenging our clients to do, is to think differently and to try and grow. So what happens with family businesses is there's confirmation bias, right? You mentioned granddaddy and then daddy and then son. And a lot of times, the generations teach the following generation. And sometimes you end up with people like our last guest who's really passionate about growing and expanding and doing things differently. But sometimes you just have, a son who inherits a father's business. And it's like, you know what? I know it. It's easy. I'm going to do it. Your extrusion example is absolutely perfect. In the fact that, extrusion is something that I care about with Sign Comp and am passionate about educating people about. And you get that comment, even the 2 hours, right? So, we've done a video where we put a cabinet together in like 8 minutes and not rushing, right? We can do that fast. But the problem isn't that, hey, well, it's more expensive, right? Well, yeah, it is. But how many guys do you have that are sweeping floors at any given moment? Or the guy at the paint booth's done and he's twiddling his thumbs. So you have a skilled fabricator who's building a box. I can teach the guy who's sweeping to build that box. The custom fabricator can do something custom. I don't know, like a sneeze guard. And the other guy who was sweeping the floors before, some sales rep like yourself comes in, teaches them how to build a cabinet. They're off and running. They don't need any sort of special skills. They slide it together, they glue it up. You're done. You're walking away from that thing. So I think what's really cool and would be an advantage for people in sales now, especially for materials, is going to be that sign companies are going to be, they were forced to think differently. And I think they're going to be more open to thinking differently in the future now. I think it's going to be growth all around, not only for distribution, for people in my position, but for sign companies as well. I think it's a really nice jolt that is going to get the creative juices flowing. And that means sales are going to go up for everybody, and nice little recovery for our economy.
I've been busier the last 2 weeks than I've been in probably 10 years. And your example, Joe, is a perfect example. We have a guy who works for us that used to own his own sign company. And when we first came down, and Dave Bryhoff came down, and we assembled all these cabinets and, teaching all of our guys how to assemble a cabinet and the kit and how easy it is. And of course, we're not going to weld because you don't let salespeople touch welders. Just don't do it. So we put the strap around it, strap everything in, and we get the, I can't remember, let's just say it was Lord Adhesive, since you represent Lord. So we put the Lord, I know y'all looking for sponsors. I'm trying to help.
Banner across the screen.
Yeah, so I do listen, Matt. So we put the Lord Adhesive and put it on in there, and we glued it in there. So again, we could either screw it in, or we could glue it in, or we could weld it. Well, when we got done, the guy who used to own the sign company goes, "So you mean I've been having my guy for $25 an hour, my welder, welding everything, when I could have been taking the guy at $8 an hour to do a screw and just go screw them in or glue them in?" And right away, same thing. He goes, "I need that welder welding some other things, but if this can happen this way, there's the Lord promo." So,
not a sponsor,
sponsor, but if they want to, they can. But it's one of those things that right away, it's what we talked about earlier with Matt. It's showing the company how to be more efficient. Yeah. So now that $25 an hour guy doesn't have to do that. You can get the $8, $12, whatever your rates are, and everything, and now let them do something more important.
Absolutely.
Another thing I want to say too is, and again, it's because we have Matt Smith, and it's been an ongoing conversation, but I think it's enlightening. I think it's also inspiring, and I think we need to remember all this, that there's a lot of sign shops right now that are going to suffer from what's going on, the pandemic and stuff. So there's a lot of negative that's surrounded by small businesses, and people that are going to have to get through this. But then there's an underlining positive message. And I think that's what Matt is trying to present to us. And he's trying to let people know from a guy who's been in the business for 35 years, somebody who's seen a lot of change in the industry itself, is that it's going to lead to success. But during this time, sign shops need, like he said, to think outside the box in order to make us more successful in the future. And I think a lot of the things that we're learning today, if they are practiced, if they are implemented into the shop, will carry on into the future, and it will make you more successful. So you need to, take the whole notion that, we're just going to go under with this. Maybe just try changing a few things and watch as people are noticing sign shops flourishing and not being swept under the rug. And I think that's very important for people to be out, to encouraging others, to talking to others that are in the industry. We are in it together, and we have partners, distributors, vendors, salespeople that are all thinking alike to help everybody out, get us out of the struggle that we're in today. So I think it's unreal.
It's no different than a sales book. It's a resource. So use that resource. You talk to somebody, go, look at, and what people say, look at our business. What am I doing? What are you seeing somewhere else that you're not seeing here? Yeah. And go, and then okay. And again, if you're not giving away a trade secret or something, but you're going, there's things that your guys could do. I mean, it used to be back in the day that when the yellow pages, again, I'll explain to you what yellow pages are later, but you would hear a restaurant the new restaurants opening up, and they would go through the yellow pages on their signs, and they would just start calling every sign company. Yeah. And then whoever showed up would literally say, yeah, the guy said he called 20 sign companies and only one showed up. And everything is follow up. I have example after example of sign companies that didn't follow up on something and ended up being a $5 million or $7 million project and everything. That's because you just preconceive what you think is going to happen. So I think that what we find out is, like when I was talking about earlier about the purpose of the call and everything, we have like a little sheet that we go through, and we've had sign customers that have asked us, they go, what are you writing down? And well, now I'm going to ask you about this. And go, what are you looking at? And so we show it to them, and they go, can we get a copy of that? Because they're turning around and giving that to their salespeople and saying, look, you may not, you want to use it exactly, but that it keeps you guided. Because the one thing, and again, we all know as salespeople, how many times have we walked out of a place and gotten in the car and driven away and then go, dang it, I totally forgot to ask him about this. That's what the main reason I was going to go was to ask about something, and I forgot about it. Because so what I do is I just write everything down on my yellow pad of paper in my portfolio, and when I'm going through, I just check them off. As I do them, I just check them off.
You said a great word that I had a thought trending in my head, and I wasn't going to say it, Matt, but now I'm going to say it. Hearing you share it, and I've had a lot of these same thoughts, but I never thought about it this way until you just probably like a minute ago. You're a portfolio manager for sign companies. Mm-hmm. You are the guy who says, hey, you have all these resources. I can empower you to use these resources this way and profit these ways, just like you would work with an investment company, a financial advisor. You're a sign portfolio manager. And you said portfolio as you were writing it. So I was like, all right, I got to say it now. So I feel like it was meant to be. But it's really cool. It's an interesting way to look at it. Maybe we can switch some titles for people and get sign companies curious. Like, this guy's a portfolio manager for sign companies. Huh, all right. Let's see what this guy has to say.
The whole thing being is it really comes to be is it's like, salesman, like my title, director, whatever that means. But it really comes down to I have one very good customer that he literally tells his people, if it has to do with anything electrical that you're doing, you call Matt. Mm-hmm. And to me, that was the greatest compliment in the world that he could give me and everything. Because I know all parts of the sign industry, but electrical is my passion. Mm-hmm. And for him to tell me that was the biggest compliment to me. And his people call me for floodlights or parking lot lights because it's electrical. And then now we're saying, oh, I didn't realize you knew digital too. And stuff. And we start going through that. So.
I love it. That's beautiful stuff. All right, Mr. Smith.
It's no different than the ISA Elite guys. Just close. I don't know. You'll probably wrap it up. The ISA Elite, like you guys said last week, that hopefully Ian will be nice to me on my next board meeting since I'm mentioning ISA Elite 3 times. That one of the great things is everybody that I've talked to that has gone to ISA Elite that worked for GSG and other sign companies, they come back and go, wow, it's so great. The networking is fantastic. And what I love about the associations and what I really love about this industry is everybody comes to these industries and these sign meetings and they they're not saying, oh, well, you're my competition, I'm not going to talk to you. They talk to each other because you can't handle all that business anyway, and they learn from each other. I mean, I've got a customer in Kansas that invited a customer from Oklahoma City up there and says, here's my books. This is how we charge. This is our rate. This is how we figured all this stuff. And he was mentoring this young guy do it. And when I used to work in San Antonio, the 3 largest sign companies in San Antonio, the 3 fathers who owned it, which were all second generations, when, like Matt, for you, when you came of age to work for your dad's company, you got sent to Joe's dad's company. Joe got sent to my dad's company, and I got sent to your dad's company. And we had to work there for a couple of years because to learn how to be an employee and all this instead of being just automatic. So the sign industry has a long history of helping each other and mentoring each other. They just don't really realize that's what it was called.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Mr. Smith, we're going to start wrapping things up. Did you have any closing remarks or things you wanted to share before we get on here?
No, the floor is yours.
Well, first of all, guys, thank you so much for inviting me on. I really have enjoyed it. I like, again, for somebody who doesn't didn't even know what Zoom was, beforehand. Doesn't know what Zoom was beforehand. This has been very exciting for me to start seeing all these things, and it's given me a lot of ideas. Like I said, and again, it's like sign companies. If you're not embracing social media, please embrace social media. It's gonna, I'm old enough to be both your fathers and everything and stuff, but I'm not your father. But it's one of those things that if I can learn it, anybody can learn it and such. And I get a lot of reaction from people by posting things, and it really does help draw more business. But again, it draws more attention to the industry. So.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, Matt, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you making the time and sharing your wisdom and experience and your story. And I'm sure we'll have you on again. So thanks so much, Matt.
Thanks a lot, guys. I really appreciate it.
Matt, before you go to, I want to, now that we're live on air and it's Friday morning, Joe and I both want to apologize for you not being our first Matt on the show. I know it's something that we talked about on the phone. So we're here, we're putting it out there. We apologize you weren't the first Matt, but you made an excellent second Matt. And amazing for our episode number 5. So really appreciate you coming out.
Well, like I said, I'm just glad the FCC made y'all bring on somebody that was a legacy member versus all these young punks that you keep having on there. So
a legend. I love it. Thank you, Matt.
Okay, guys. Thank y'all very much. Really appreciate it.
Enjoy your Friday morning.
I will. Thank y'all very much. Everybody have a great Friday.
You too, bud.
Joe, there's one thing I wanted to touch upon quickly is it always comes back, and I think we've had this conversation when we had our first episode, and here we are on the 5th. It's a sense of family. And I think it's an accomplishment to all of us that are in the industry for making other people feel as if when you get a job inside the sign industry, you become part of a family. And people are willing to reach out, mentor, talk. These are all the words that keep coming up in every podcast that we do. And I think it's a testament to what we are creating, the platform that we're on. And it's reassuring to know you're part of something bigger than just your shop. You're part of the industry and one big family.
Yeah, that's definitely a way to look at it. And I think a bit of encouragement I would share is I think a lot of times people underestimate their value. When you get into this industry and you learn any form of the trade, whether that be actually fabricating something or selling it in any capacity, your value is extreme. There's not a lot of people out there. The exposure to what we do is so limited. And, like Matt just said, and, I haven't shared a whole lot of my story on Rising Signs. Maybe we'll get to it one day, but I absolutely fell into the sign industry. And it was something that after about a year, I realized, oh, wow, I could make something of this. Mm-hmm. So, for those of you out there listening that, might feel a little lost, just know that, if you expand your network, you would be surprised how many people would want to work with you.
I agree.
Awesome.
I agree.
All right, man. Well, I don't think I have anything else.
Well, reminder to everybody, first of all, thank you for all the support that we've been getting. Everyone that's been reaching out to us, it is unbelievable. We love all of you. So thank you for sticking with us through this process. Like Joe said, comment, like, subscribe below. It's very important. Turn on your notification. The more episodes we start doing, the better we're going to get at this. So much love to everybody out there. We really appreciate it.
Yes, absolutely. So thanks so much, everybody. And as always, I'm Joe. And this guy is
Matthew.
This has been Rising Signs. Have a good one, guys.
Have a great Friday morning, everybody.
Ah!